Hey guys, it's Bedlam, and today in this video I want to talk to you about 6 things that you can do in Brawl Stars to improve your ranked gameplay. This is stuff that I don't really see people talking about that much. The thing is, when you ask people who are good at Brawl Stars how you can improve, you'll usually get some vague general advice like, oh, you should learn to draft, you should know your matchups, you should know the meta and which brawlers are strong. Watch my tier list, by the way. And that kind of advice might help you, but it isn't that specific, and abusing a broken brawler to get really high elo won't really... It's not going to necessarily make you a better player. It's just going to make you a player who's in an elo that you're going to struggle to fit in with once your brawler gets nerfed. And there are some things that I think people could start doing right now to improve their gameplay by a lot, and nobody's talking about it. So what we're going to do in this video is talk about exactly that, 6 things that you can do right now to help you improve, and they're going to be specific and they're going to be actionable. So if you enjoy these tips and you want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. These tips are mostly going to be catered for Brawl Stars, organized from easiest to hardest, but I'm going to be honest, the last technique in this video is actually going to be applicable to other PvP games and maybe even in life in general, so make sure you stick around for that. As a short disclaimer, I've been playing Brawl since 2017. I have thousands of hours in this game, majority of it spent in 3v3. I'm not a pro player, but I always get masters and ranked, and I don't even have the last tip mastered yet personally. You know, even if you're better than me in the game, that's okay. Still watch it, I think you're gonna get something out of it. So without further ado, let's jump right into the first one. Starting with the easiest, this is more aimed towards beginners, and that's ammo counting. In Brawl Stars, most characters have 3 ammo, and it's hard once you're at 0 ammo to get back to 3 ammo quickly. Ammo counting is more important if you're playing an aggro brawler, and you won't need to like jump in and try and kill a squishy target. The thing is, if you just jump in without counting your opponent's ammo, they're gonna mag dump you. Like as soon as you go in, they're just, them and maybe their teammates are just gonna blow you up, fill you with holes, and do unspeakable things to said holes. But if you count your target's ammo, dodge a few shots, and then jump in, you're gonna win way more interactions that way. And that's what separates a Diamond Edgar player from a Masters Edgar player. Even though it's like a no-skill brawler, just being able to time your jump for when they have no ammo, that's super important. And most of you might already know this, like obviously, yeah, you don't want to just jump in when when the enemy Brock has 3 shots, you don't want to just jump in like that if you can die in 3 shots. But you might not know that ammo counting can actually be useful to know in range duels too. If you get a sense of how many shots your opponent has sent out, and you know they're only on 1 ammo left, which they're just spamming as soon as they get it, you can start to predict when they'll start peeking corners. It's when their ammo is recharged, because people do this habit of just shooting, hiding, and then peeking to shoot right as their ammo recharges. So if you get the hang of it, you can predict the timing of your next shot to hit them as soon as they peek a corner. And some of you might even realize you're already unconsciously doing this, but it's one of those little things that you only get from playing a lot of 3v3 games, which is why if you're a beginner, you probably shouldn't play too much Showdown. It's fun, but if you want to get good at ranked, you want to play more 3v3 to get these little skills that you just won't get from playing 10-man mode. Another simple tip that's also for beginners: pinching. If you're having a stalemate with the enemy team, look for a pinch with your teammate to bring one person down. In Brawl Stars, a 2v3 is almost unwinnable. If you lose one teammate, you've lost 33% of the strength of your team. So once a team gets one kill, usually the pressure they can assert lets them just take complete control over the map, which lets you spawn camp in bounty for more kills, grab gems in gem grab, charge the pad in hot zone, just sit in the middle, you know, and do what you gotta do to win the game. Pinching is a great way to just make things happen. The next tip for beginners, this is just more general account strategy, and that's to pick a few brawlers to focus upgrade. In Brawl Stars, power level matters a lot more because they made a change where stat difference between levels are now 10% instead of 5%. So you're really going to feel it if you're only power 11 or you're only power 10 going against power 11s. I have a friend who's been playing the game since 2018. He doesn't play that much, but his brawler economy is trash. Like completely garbage. He upgrades all of his brawlers at once across the board, and so because of that he barely has any power 11s. But if you compare that to my free-to-play alt account Epic Fart, where I have almost every brawler and a bunch of hypercharged ones too, you know, you can, if you just focus on upgrading one brawler at a time and channel your resources into getting hypercharged brawlers, you're gonna have a way better time in ranked, and it's gonna be easier to compete with other players. Focusing a few brawlers also has the added benefit of letting you get more experienced at playing just those brawlers, which can help you win those 1v1 lanes. Almost every brawler has a lot of brawler specific tips and tricks to know, and it's hard to learn those for every brawler in the game, so try to just focus on a few and upgrade brawlers one at a time. Maybe get power 7 for quests or something, but yeah. Okay, and the next tip is going to be lane switching. Now, I don't know what it is. I thought this was a pretty simple thing to learn, but even for people who reach masters, I've seen so many people just not understand lane switching, but it's super simple, and once you do get the hang of it, it's extremely powerful. Now, what is lane switching? Brawl Stars maps are usually sorted into 3 lanes, and lane switching is just when you and your teammates switch one of those lanes, usually to get a more favorable matchup. It also works in 2-lane maps too. I cannot understate how important this skill is. Games will literally be won or lost based on whether you can properly identify your good matchups and bad matchups and switch lanes with your teammates. If your brawler has a good matchup into one of the brawlers on the enemy team, look at the loading screen and walk to that side at the beginning of the match. People instinctively already understand that grouping up in Brawl Stars is usually pretty bad, because it allows the enemy to pinch into one lane a lot easier, splash multiple people with their attacks, and take control of the map way easier. So if you walk into a lane that your teammate is going into, even if they don't know about lane switching, most of the time their monkey brain is just going to kick in. They're going to automatically walk to whichever lane isn't taken. It's really that easy. And then if the enemy team ever decides to lane switch on you, keep an eye out for it and then switch with them, or at the very least switch on your next respawn so you don't fall behind and get fucked by a bad matchup. The reason why lane switching is so important is that Brawl Stars matches are short. You only need to lose your lane a few times and the 3-minute game is already over. If you're playing an aggressive brawler and you let yourself walk into a tank counter over and over again, when there's a sniper or thrower dominating one of your other teammates in a different lane, your lack of awareness is essentially choosing to lose the game on purpose. You are literally throwing. And the thing is, lane switching is so good, you can use it everywhere. If you're losing the game, try switching lanes. Lose the first round, switch lanes. Getting outplayed, switch lanes. Walking into a losing lane over and over again, expecting different results, is the definition of being a dumb fuck. Okay, switch things up, move people around. Maybe you can save your teammates from going 0-5 by taking their negative matchup away from them. If you want to win, switch lanes. As long as your team can do at least okay into the other enemies, you'll win a lot more games this way. Now, how can you make sure that every brawler on your team has at least a decent matchup into the opponents? That's going to be done through drafting, but don't worry, I won't feed you vague schlop. I'll try to make the advice specific and actionable. Now, when you play ranked games, you might honestly spend around a third to half of the time just in the draft screen, which sounds crazy, but in a way it's totally fair because I think drafting is equally important to whatever the fuck you actually do in the game itself. Even a team of Masters players, if they have a losing team comp, they're gonna struggle to win against Diamond players. Team comp is so important. It's why if you've ever watched Brawl Stars competitive, you'll see mechanically insane pros just getting completely steamrolled just because they messed up their draft. People think your rank only represents how good you are at the game, but in my opinion, there's actually 2 different things being measured with your rank. There's your in-game skill, so your positioning, aiming, game sense, right, being able to pinch, lane switch, things like that. And then there's your drafting skill, which is totally separate from your in-game skill, and that's just going to be how you pick and ban brawlers. The thing is, trying to verbally teach you all the intricacies around drafting is gonna be mostly a waste of time. To get really good at drafting, you need to know 2 things, which is which brawlers are strong right now, the meta, and knowing every single brawler interaction so you can counter your enemies without getting countered. But there are almost like, 100 brawlers in the game. Even if I took the time to go into all that in this video, you're not gonna meaningfully learn anything from that, since information is just not effectively retained that way over time. And that's why I think tier lists are actually a bad way to learn drafting. Tier lists might be a good starting or reference point for which brawlers to keep an eye out for, but the truth is that you could have just learned that by playing 1 or 2 games anyways, and you'll remember it way better too by feeling it out that way, right? You don't need some guy to tell you that Frank is overpowered if you go in blind, the enemy team picks Frank and they completely stomp you, you're going to remember that Frank is overpowered. It's way more effective for learning the game just by playing rather than trying to keep aware of like 10 different broken brawlers all at once from a tier list you watch in a random YouTube video. If you pick a broken brawler you saw on a tier list and then dominate with it, the next time you're on a draft screen, you're not going to remember that Kairos time said in his tier list that the brawler was broken. You're going to remember how it felt to dominate with the brawler, and that's how you know it's broken. Also, metas sometimes are different depending on your skill level. Sure, pros are going to say Edgar sucks, but that's not going to be reflected in your diamond level games, where Edgar gets picked a lot more. So knowing that Edgar is a C tier or whatever brawler, and then basing your picks on the fact that a smart person won't pick Edgar doesn't really help you if the enemy team picks Edgar anyways. Tier lists can also be misleading sometimes because depending on the map, the mode, the draft order, and the enemy's drafts, a C tier brawler might actually become like an A or an S tier, and vice versa. For example, Edgar on pit stop is notoriously strong, but it's potentially a terrible first pick, because if you first pick Edgar and the enemy team takes Cordelius and Rico, then you're probably going to lose that game. But if you ban Cordelius and Rico, then maybe Edgar becomes a lot stronger of a pick. If the enemy already has picked a thrower, Edgar's going to be a way stronger pick now. Brawler rankings are super variable depending on the context, and the only way to really know when a brawler is good is to just experience it in your gameplay. So if you want to learn drafting, what do you need to do? I think you need to just focus on 3 things. 1, don't pick an easily counterable brawler early in the draft. If your brawler can be easily countered, don't pick it first, okay? Because then second and third pick, you're gonna get fucked probably. Usually brawlers that are broken because they have very few counters right now in the meta, so you can go one of those first. I think right now Frank, Lily, Piper, Rico, these are like pretty safe first picks in most cases, but again, it's going to depend on the map and mode. If you go like Dynamite first pick, or Mortis or Tick, you are basically doing the video game equivalent of spreading your ass cheeks apart and asking to get fucked. Don't do that, okay? Because if they go Miko onto your Dynamite first pick, or if they go like a Shelly into your Mortis, you're going to be kind of useless the entire game. And then when you lose, it's going to be your fault. Second thing, ban whatever you don't like playing against. Usually these are going to be the strongest brawlers in the game, but sometimes depending on the map and mode, maybe you have some experience that says, oh, Tick here is just insufferable and gets picked a lot, so I'm going to ban it. Or maybe you have some brawlers upgraded and all the broken ones aren't, and so then you can't even pick the broken brawlers anyways, so you kind of have to change your banning strategy based on that too. When you're in doubt, go with your gut rather than some general tier list that you saw that can't take into account the map and the mode you're playing, or the rank you're in, or whether or not you have first pick. Just ban whatever you don't like playing against. That's my general rule. And then the third thing is, just play the game. Drafting kind of comes down to your experience. You want to get a lot of it if you're new to it. When you lose, try and just think about how your team comp and the enemy team comp could have been changed in the draft screen to have turned that loss into a win, because there almost always was something you could have done differently to change the outcome of that match. And this kind of ties a lot into my next tip, which is to watch your replays. Okay, if you want to improve, watch your replays. Trust me, reflecting after a match is probably one of the most powerful ways of learning. When you're focused on playing your game, it's hard to actually know why you lost in the moment, but if you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you're going to start to see a lot of things you missed in the game. You might even be surprised, like, oh wow, I shouldn't have wasted my super there, or wow, my teammates didn't actually play that bad, they were just up against a bad matchup, I should have switched lanes with them way sooner, or wow, if I hit that shot there, we could have scored, if I pinched with my teammates, we could have broken out of the spawn trap, wow, my teammates actually played really bad, and there was not much I could have done there. Right, there's a lot of things you'll only see in a replay, and I get it, watching your own gameplay isn't necessarily the most fun thing to do, but since Brawl Stars games are short, it doesn't actually take that long to just watch a replay, and if you start doing this and critically thinking about what you could have done to win, you're going to get way better at the game. The nice thing is that once you start doing this enough times where you watch your own replays, you're going to start to be able to reflect during the game itself, recognizing way more situations where you need to switch lanes, seeing way more opportunities for you to improve your positioning so you don't lose. If you can see your mistake from a replay and then recognize it when you're actually about to make it in the game and then avoid making it, then reviewing your games might have just given you that insight to win that game, right? When I'm reviewing, I kind of find that it's actually better if I don't lock onto my own character, because then I start rethinking in that same mindset that I was when I was playing the game. But what you actually want to do is you want to try to look at your gameplay from an outsider's perspective and try to pretend that whatever you're like the person you're spectating, which is you, isn't actually you, so you can get a better sense of seeing through the bias and seeing your own gameplay for what it actually is. And when you're reviewing the game, you want to just focus on ways that you can improve personally as a player, because you could have basically have always played better. And for my last tip, it has to do with your mentality. The mentality that you want to strive for is one where you basically just blame everything that happens on yourself and completely ignore your teammates. In my opinion, this mentality is the most powerful technique you'll ever learn, maybe even in your life, which is to keep your mind focused on yourself. This is based on my personal experience. There are some people who claim that they play better when they get more angry. That's complete coke, okay? Sigmund Freud, in his theory of mapping out the human mind, identified 10 defense mechanisms that our mind uses to try and reduce painful emotions. When we lose games, the implication that our mind makes is that we suck at the game, which feels bad. And so to protect us, we project our perceived lack of skill onto our teammates, right? My teammates suck, there was nothing I could do. The issue comes from this is that in order to fix anything, you need to first identify the problem correctly, right? If you ever go to a doctor and you have an illness, the first step in treating an illness is to diagnose it properly. You need to identify your problem to fix the problem. If your problem is that you generally are bad at the game, by incorrectly blaming others for your loss, that's only going to take away from your ability to identify how you can improve your gameplay. So rather than falling into the trap of letting a defense mechanism block you from getting better, what we need to do is lean into the truth, even if it hurts to do so, okay? The truth is, I suck at the game. Or maybe a little healthier way of phrasing that, I could have played better. And just think about it, even pro players, after every match, they are able to identify ways that they could have played better. You are obviously worse than a pro player, so how could it possibly be the case that you made no mistakes? Really? Did you really make no mistakes? Even in games you win, you've made mistakes. If you didn't hit every shot, you could have played that game better, right? You can always play better. And the thing is, it feels good to blame your teammates for your losses, but you can't play your teammates' games for them, right? In the end, the only thing you can control is your own gameplay, so focusing on how others are playing is actually just a waste of your effort. Even worse than that, when you get stressed and angry, you actually start to perform worse, which is a phenomenon called the Yerkes-Dodson law. If you get so stressed out and angry because you're raging at your teammates and you're BMing, you're actually just gonna play worse. If you're struggling to get into the habit of embodying like a mentality of blaming yourself, what helped for me is to try and imagine that my teammates aren't real humans. You're playing a single player game and your teammates aren't real. If you've ever played a game with bots, it's kind of hard to get angry at your bot teammates because they're not even humans, right? They don't know any better. They're just doing what their programming says. If you try and take that mindset and put that into games, even with real players on your team, if you just treat them like more advanced bots that can take ball passes and know how to BM, that might actually help you. It helped me, removing that anger and blaming part from my mindset as I play ranked games. And as you switch away from blaming others to blaming yourself, you're actually going to see way more results in your games, right? Don't be overly negative about it, but just be honest. Just in identifying and reflecting oh, I missed a shot here that I could have hit. If I hit that, maybe I would have killed him by now. Or damn, I misplayed here, I could have done this differently and we would have won the game. If you let your personal actions become your focus, you're going to find yourself winning more games. Another way to think about this too is that if you get pissed at your teammates and you spam shots at them, and then you spin and you spam sprays and you BM, that's actually objectively detrimental to your ability to play the game well. Not only are you wasting time and getting distracted, you also might not have the ammo to kill your opponent when you re-enter your lane. If you die because you wasted 3 shots on your teammate and then you lose your lane, and then you lose the game, you essentially just let your emotions lose you the game. Your choices made you lose that game, right? it wasn't your teammate, that's on you. Your mindset, and by extension, your emotions to some degree, are within your control. Your teammate's skill is not. Focus on what's in your control and ignore everything that's out of it. This is one of the hardest things to do, but if you do, it'll actually help you not just in Brawl Stars, but in every multiplayer game and even in life, okay? Placing your life in your own hands, rather than blaming external things in your life, is called having an internal locus of control, and studies done on this topic consistently show that having an internal locus of control correlates with increased happiness, increased subjective well-being, increased creativity. Basically, you just become a better person, okay? By being kinder to others, by being less hateful, we just become happier people and live better lives. And win games in Brawl Stars. If you're still watching at this point, just want you to know that your hair looks fabulous today. Smooches all around. Mwah. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for this video. If you learned something or found this to be a good refresher, be sure to like and subscribe. As I climb back to Masters this season, I'm planning on making videos analyzing in depth what players in each rank gets wrong. So subscribe if you don't want to miss it. But that's going to be it from me. I love you. Bye. Mwah, mwah, mwah.